Hello, brothers and sisters. Welcome to another Temple 420 Bible study. I'm here with uh, Victoria Rose, Garret of Temple 420 Minister here, and we're going to go through some study of the Bible, Lech Lecha in 2 Corinthians 4. I've got it down here at the bottom here, if I can even speak right. But I'll open us up here with a prayer. Dear Almighty God, thank you for the blessings you give us and keeping us safe through our days. Help bless us in the walks that we're doing the righteous things that are right in your path. And help us with this study and help us understand and seek out your word and have your understanding through it. Help us be revealed to truths in it and encourage those who watch us later or watch it to go towards your way, and may we have healing in your name.
Amen.
Let's see here. I'm going to go through, wish my notes would switch a little bit better here. Through the Parsha, which is the Old Testament Tanakh, because I think it's important for us to know the Tanakh and the things that are going through that, what the Jews got there, at least the real Jews. We've got Jews now that kind of abuse the name and cause a lot of trouble. I think I totally agree with that scenario, that they are not necessarily doing what God wants them to do. And then there are people that in God's name are doing the things here.
I agree.
The term Leche is what Yahweh tells Abraham to go forth and go into look for the new land. And he does that out of just the commandment and his obedience for God. They also brought up when I was in Parsha yesterday with the Hebrews that the word for also that is to go for yourself and go with yourself, so that it's kind of implied like it's a spiritual journey and a thing for you and your walk with God, as well as it's a walk here in the land.
Amen there.
So let's see here. I actually didn't have my Bible up here, so the Bible up here. And we'll start here in Genesis 12, 1. I've got the complete Jewish Bible here as the version I'm going through today. And now Adonai said Abram, because his name was not extended at this point, go for yourself out of your country, away from your kinsmen and away from your father's house, and go to the land that I will show you. I will make of you a great nation. I will bless you, and I will make your name great, and you are to be a blessing. I will bless those who bless you, but I will curse anyone who curses you, and by you all the families of the earth will be blessed. So Abram went, and Adonai said to him, and Lot went with him. Abram was 75 years old when he left Haran. Abram took his wife Sarai, his brother's son Lot, and all their possessions which they had accumulated, and as well as the people that they had acquired in Haran. Then they set out for the land of Canaan and entered in the land of Canaan. Abram passed through the land to the place called Sedechem, to the oak of Moriah. To Canaan, then they were in the land. Adonai appeared to Abraham and said to your descendants, I will give this land. So he built an altar there to Adonai, who appeared to him. He left that place and went to the hill to the east of Bet El and pitched his tent. With Bet El to the west and Ai to the east, he built an altar there and called the name of Adonai. Then Abraham traveled on, continuing toward Negev. I'm not sure exactly what these old ones are here. hop over here to the Kodesh and see if that helps me with going through here. Genesis 12:10, Abram and Sarah in Egypt. There was a famine in the land, so Abram went down into Egypt to stay, for the famine was severe in the land. He was about to enter Egypt when he said to Sarai, his wife, "See here, I know that you are a beautiful woman, and when the Egyptians see you, they will say, 'This is his wife,' and then they will kill me, but they will keep you alive. Say that you are my sister, so that it'll be well with me because of you, and so that my life will be spared because of you." It came about when Abraham entered into Egypt that Egypt saw that Sarai was very beautiful. The princess of the Pharaoh saw her and praised her to the Pharaoh, and the woman was taken to the Pharaoh's household. The Pharaoh treated Abraham well for her sake, and she gave him sheep, oxen, male donkeys, male servants, female servants, female donkeys, and camels. Then Yahweh affected the Pharaoh and his house with great plagues because of Sarai, Abraham's wife. Pharaoh summoned Abraham and said, "What is this you've done to me? Why did you not tell me that she was your wife? Why did you say, 'She is my sister,' so that I took her to be my wife? Now therefore, here is your wife. Take her and go your way." And then Pharaoh gave orders to his men concerning him, and they sent him away, along with his wife and all that he had. One second here. There we go. Did you pick up any insights from Genesis 12 there that we should talk about before we go to 13 there? I find it interesting that something had to go on more with their wife in order to get those plagues too, right? I don't know exactly what's happened. That's one thing I always found interesting.
Sorry, it get a little choppy.
Genesis 13:1, Abraham and Lot separate. So Abram went up from Egypt and went to Negev, he and his wife and all that he had had. Lot went with him. Now Abram was very rich in animals and silver and gold. He continued his journey to Negev in Bethel, to the place where his tent had been before, and between Bethel and Ai. He went to the place where the altar was that he had built previously, and he had called in the name of Yahweh. Now Lot, who was traveling with Abram, had flocks and herds and tents, and the land was not able to support them, both living close because their possessions were very many, so they could not stay together. Also, there was a dispute between the herdsmen of Adam's animals and the herdsmen of Lot's animals. The Canaanites and the Perizzites were living in the land at the time. So Abram said to Lot, "Let there be no strife between you and me, and between your herdsmen and my herdsmen. After all, we are family. Is it not the whole land before you? Go ahead and separate yourself before me. If you go to the left, I'll go to the right. If you go to the right, I will go to the left." So Lot looked around and saw the whole plain of the Jordan was well watered everywhere, and all the way to the Zohar, like the garden of the Master Yahuwah in the land of Egypt. This was before Yahweh destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah. So Lot chose for himself the plain of Jordan and traveled east, and the relatives separated from each other. Abram lived in the land of Canaan, and Lot lived among the cities of the plain, and he set up his tents far away as Sodom. Now the men of Sodom were very wicked and sinners against Yahweh. Yahweh said to Abraham, after Lot had departed from him, "Look from the place where you are standing to the north, south, east, and west. All this land which you see, I will give to you and your descendants forever. I will make your descendants as abundant as the dust of the earth, so that if a man could count the dust of the earth, then your descendants could also be counted. Arise, walk with the length and the breadth of the land, for I will give it to you. So Abram picked up his tent and came and lived by the oaks of Mamre, which are in Hebron, and they were built to the altar of Yahweh. So Abraham's just requested up, and he goes up in faith, goes on this trip here, as Yahweh told him to do. Abraham rescues Lot. Genesis 14. It came about in the days of Amaphel, the king of Shinar, Einar, the king of Elazar, Sheridamer, the king of Elam, and Tidal, the king of Golan, that they made war against Bera, the king of Sodom, Bashira, the king of Gomorrah, Shinab, and king of Adamah, Sonimber, king of Zebanium, and the king of Bela, also called Zor. These later 5 kings joined together in the valley of Siddim, also called the Salt Sea. 12 years they had served Shalomdor, but on the 13th year they rebelled. Then on the 14th year, Shalomdor and the kings there with him came and attacked the Rephaim and Azaterath, Carneum, and Zubium, and in Ham, and Enim, and Shabbakarachim, and the Horites in the hill country of Seir, as far as El Paran, which is near the desert. Then they turned and came to En Mishpat, also called Kadesh, all the country with all the Amalekites, and also the Amorites who lived in Hazron Tamir. Then the king of Sodom, the king of Gomorrah, king of Adam, and the king of Zebulun, and the king of Bela, also called Zor, went out and prepared for battle against Chadamir, the king of Elam, Tidal, the king of Golan, Amphral, the king of Shinir, Arak, the king of Elazar, and the 4 kings against 5. Now in the valley of Siddim was full of tar pits, and the kings of Sodom and Gomorrah fled, and they fell in them. Those who left fled to the mountains. So the enemy took all the goods of Sodom and Gomorrah and all their provisions, and went their way. When they went, they also took Lot, Abram's brother, who was living in Sodom, along with his possessions. One of them had escaped and told Abram, the Hebrew, he was living by the oaks that belonged to Mamre, the Amorite, who was the brother of Eshcol and Anir, who were the allies of Abram. Now, when Abram heard that the enemies had captured his relative, he led out his 318 trained men who had been born in his house, and he pursued them as far as Dan. He divided his men against them at the night and attacked them, and pursued them as far as Hobonah, which is north of Damascus. Then he brought all the possessions, and he brought back his relative Lot and his goods, as well as the women and other people. Abram is blessed by Melchizedek. After Abram returned from defeating Shalomir and the kings who were with him, and the king of Sodom went out to meet him at the valley of Shinir, also called the King's Valley. Melchizedek, the king of Salem, brought out bread and wine, and he was a priest of Elohim, the Most High. He blessed him and said, "Blessed be Abraham by Elohim the Most High, creator of the heaven and earth. Blessed be Elohim the Most High, who has given your enemies into your hand." And then Abram gave him a tenth of everything. And the king of Sodom said to Abram, "Give the people and take the goods for yourself." Abram said to the king of Sodom, "I have lifted my hand to the Master Yahuwah, Elohim the Most High, creator of heaven and earth, and that I will not take a thread, a sandal strap, or anything that is yours, so that you can never say, 'I have made Abram rich.' I will take nothing except for the young men you have eaten, and the share of the men that went with me. Let Anir Eshcol and Medir take their portion. The only interesting thing I have to say with that one too is we come up with the Melchizedek, which showed up, and as they mentioned, he wasn't a Jew, but he did follow off of what Yahweh wanted him to do. So he was actually in a relation with him, and he was the king priest. Ended up having a relationship without having to be a Jew. So that's one of the reasons I think you can actually have a personal relationship with God too if you seek him out. And it doesn't necessarily even have to be with a labeled faith. In Genesis 15:1, God's covenant with Abram. After all these things, Yahweh came to Abram in a village, saying, a vision, saying, fear not, Abram, I am your shield and your very great reward. Abram said, O Master Yahweh, what will you give me, since I continue childless and the heir of my house is Ezer of Damascus? Abram said, since you have given me no descendant, see, the steward of my house is my heir. Then, behold, the word of the Master Yahweh came to him, saying, this man will not be your heir, but rather the one who will come from your own body will be your heir. Then he brought him outside and said, look towards heaven and number the stars, if you are able to number them. Then he said to them, so will be your descendants be. He believed that the Master Yahweh, and he counted to him in his righteousness. And he said to him, I am the Master Yahweh who brought you out of Ur of the Chaldeans to give you this land and inherit it. He said, Master Yahweh, how will I know that you will know that I will inherit it? Then he said to him, bring me a heifer 3 years old, a female goat 3 years old, and a ram 3 years old, a dove and a young pigeon. He brought him these, and he cut them in two, and placed each half opposite of the other, but he did not divide the birds. When the birds of prey came down upon the carcass, Abram drove them away. Then when the sun was going down, Abram fell asleep, and behold, a deep and terrifying darkness overwhelmed him. Then the Master Yahweh said to Abram, know for certain that your descendants will be strangers in the land that's not theirs, and they will be enslaved and oppressed for 400 years. I will judge the nation that they serve, and afterwards they will come out with an abundance of possessions. But you will go into your father's peace, and you will be buried in a good old age. And the fourth generation will come here again, for the iniquity of the Ammonites has not reached its limit. But then when the sun had gone down and it was dark, beholding, a smoke fire pot and a flaming torch passed between the pieces. On that day, the Master Yahweh made a covenant with Abram, saying, to your descendants, I will give you this land, from the river of the Egypt to the great river Euphrates, to the Kenites, the Kenites, the Kamites, the Hizites, the Pezites, the Rephlites, the Amorites, the Canaanites, and the Girgasites, and the Jebusites. So we got the very first covenant here, where Yahweh puts Abraham asleep and goes in between the splits of the animals, in between that blood, which was actually a ritual at the time that they would have somebody do that was making a covenant with somebody. And Yahweh does it as he's making a covenant with Abraham. Sarai and Hagar, Genesis 16:1. Now Sarai, Abram's wife, had not borne any children for him, but she had a female servant, an Egyptian whose name was Hagar. So Sarai said to Abram, see, the Master Yahweh has kept me from having children. Go sleep with my servant. It may be that I will have children by her. Abram listened to the voice of Sarai, and it was after Abram had lived 10 years in the land of Canaan that Sarai, Abram's wife, gave Hagar, his Egyptian servant, to a husband his wife. She had relations, so he had relations with Hagar, and she conceived. When she saw that she conceived, she looked on contempt with her mistress. Then Sarai said to Abram, "This is wrong on me because of you. I gave you my servant into the woman of your embrace, and when she saw that she had conceived, I was despised in her eyes. Let the master Yahweh judge between me and you." But Abram said to Sarai, "See here, your servant woman is in your power. Do with her what you think is best." So Sarai dealt with her harshly, and she fled from her. The one sent angel of the master Yahweh found her by the spring and in the water of the wilderness that is on the way to Shur. And he said, "Hagar, Sarai's servant, where did you come from? And where are you going?" Then she said, "I am fleeing from my mistress Sarai." Then the sent angel of the master Yahweh said to her, "Return to your mistress and submit yourself to her authority." Then the angel sent by the master Yahweh said to her, "I will greatly multiply your descendants, so they will be too numerous to count." Then the angel of Yahweh said to her, "Behold, you are pregnant, and you will bear a son, and you will call his name Ishmael, because of the master Yahuwah has heard your affliction. He will be like a wild donkey of a man, and he will be hostile against every man, and every man will be hostile to him, and he will live apart from his brothers." Then she gave the name to the master Yahweh who spoke to her, "You are the Elohim who sees me." For she said, "Do I really continue to see even after he sees me?" Therefore, he was called Bir Laholi. Behold, it is between Kadesh and Bered. Hagar gave birth to Abraham's son. And Abram named his son, whom Hagar bore, Ishmael. Abram was 86 years old when Hagar bore Ishmael to Abram. See here. I think one of the interesting things here too, that I also don't like when they go after the kind of the whole Muslim thing as a whole, because to me there's some things that look like they're God's intent here. They're going to be an ass to men, it says here with that. It seems like everybody doesn't get along with them, but God also blessed them with them. So I'm really careful with what I say with them here. And there's also one of those other spots here where Hagar would not have been a Jew or in that campment, like with Abram, like in the worship kind of sense with it there. And God showed up to her and talked to her and told her her people would be blessed with that. So, you have any thoughts on that?
Oh, with the Muslim stuff?
Yeah, what do you think and how do you take with that? Since Hagar did have God come to her on this and tell her that they would be here. And they be asses to men, and that kind of seems what it currently is.
Yeah, I think it goes on with it because honestly, uh, Muslims believe in Jesus too, and they say things a little bit differently. And like when they say Allah, some crazy word, but really Allah in their language really just means God. You know what I mean? So it's like,
glad you know that one. Yeah, that's the one that I don't. Nobody attacks him for that.
Yeah, everyone's so weird about the word Allah. Like, oh, they don't believe in God; they believe in something called Allah. Well, Allah, it means God, so it's like.
Yeah, it's the other word for Adonai, which is father. So, like, that's their version of that. Like, why are you guys going after him for?
Yeah, and that's what I don't understand with it. But like reading the Quran, it even says in the Quran, if you believe as what the what the Jews do, you'll go to heaven. If you believe as the Christians do, you'll go to heaven as well. If you follow it, you'll still make it.
Yeah, each one will be delegated their thing from God for each one of those. That's why I don't understand why they don't get along. I got one.
Yeah, I think it's from a different tribe. You know what I mean? They're just from it's from the same guys, just from a different tribe, because there's not even 12 tribes of Israel yet. You know what I mean? So whatever he was back then. So,
well, Ishmael, exactly when the Jews were just started here by Isaac being born, and Ishmael just happens to end up being the older one that comes up and makes the Muslims all of their lineage.
Literally. Yes, sir.
It's so wild.
But people will sometimes hear things and they go with it. Like when I was younger, our church told us that Obama was Antichrist. And
I remember hearing that.
I was like, what the heck? No, that's what our church preached, man. It was a Southern Baptist church, and I thought that was crazy. Whatever. Like, some people actually left. I didn't leave, but I didn't believe like that thing they said. I was there for the message of the biblical messages. I just wasn't there for the small talk.
All right. Yeah. Some of that stuff. Crazy ideas some of these people come up with. And we can go on to the final part of the Parsha here, which is Genesis 17:1. And I'll go into Corinthians here before we wrap it up. Genesis 17:1 is Abraham in the covenant of circumcision. When Abram was 99 years old, Master Yahweh appeared to Abram and said, I am Elohim Almighty. Walk before me and be blameless. Then I will confirm my covenant between me and you and multiply you exceedingly. Abram bowed low to his face to the ground, and Elohim talked to him, saying, As for me, behold, my covenant is with you. You will be the father of a multitude of nations. No longer will your name be Abram, but it'll be Abraham, for I will appoint you to be the father of the multitude of nations. I will make you exceedingly fruitful, and I will make nations of you. And the kings will descend from you. I will establish my covenant between me and you and your descendants after you, throughout their generations for an everlasting covenant, to be Elohim to you and to your descendants after you. I will give to you and your descendants after you in the land in which you've been living, and all the land of Canaan for an everlasting possession, and I will be their Elohim. Then Elohim said to Abraham, As for you, you must keep my covenant, you and your descendants after you through your generation. This is to be my covenant you must keep between me and your descendants after you. Every male among you must be circumcised. You must be circumcised in the flesh of your foreskin, and this will be the sign of the covenant between me and you. Every male among you that's 8 days old must be circumcised throughout your people's generation. This includes him who is born into your household and who is bought with money from any foreigner who is not of your descendants. He who is born into your household, who is bought with you and your money, must be circumcised. This, my covenant, will be in your flesh for an everlasting covenant. Any uncircumcised male who is not circumcised in the flesh of his foreskin will be cut off from his people, and he has broken my covenant. Finish up with this one here in a minute, but the biggest thing that always gets me with this one too is everybody does the religious circumcision, or hey, I'm Christian and I'm doing circumcision because that's what we do, and you're not following to waiting the 8 days like it says here. So you're just mutilating a baby for sure. You're not even doing it as it tells you to, which is the craziest. I've heard too, because that's also the medical way they say would really be best if you would wait 8 days and then you would cut it, that it would be the best time. So it's beyond me why they want to do it like the first 48 hours to 3 days. Now, like, that's not a Christian setup. Come on. Isaac's birth promised in generation 1715. Elohim said to Abraham, "As for Sarai, your wife, do not call her Sarai anymore. Instead, her name will be Sarah. I will bless her, and I will give you a son by her. I will bless her, and she will become the mother of nations, kings of peoples, and will come for her." Then Abram bowed low with his face to the ground and laughed and said to his heart, "Can a child be born to a man who is 100 years old? How can Sarah, who is 90 years old, bear a son?" Abram said to Elohim, "Oh, that Ishmael may live before you." Elohim said, "No, but Sarah, your wife, will bear you a son, that you may name him Isaac. I will establish my covenant with him as an everlasting covenant with his descendants after him. As for Ishmael, I have heard you. Behold, I hereby bless him, and will make him fruitful, and I will multiply him abundantly. He will be the father of 12 leaders of tribes, and I will make him become a great nation. But my covenant will establish with Isaac, whom Sarah will bear to you at this time next year." Then when he had finished talking to him, Elohim went up from Abram, and Abram took Ishmael as his son, and all those who were born in his household, and all those who were bought with his money, every male man of Abram's household, and circumcised the flesh of their foreskin in that same day, as Elohim had said to him. Abraham was 99 years old when he was circumcised in the flesh of his foreskin. Ishmael was his son 13 years old when he was circumcised in the flesh of his foreskin. On the very same day, Abraham and Ishmael, his son, were both circumcised, and all the men of his house were circumcised with him, including those born in the household and those brought with the money from a foreigner. You got any insight or any comments on Genesis here before we leave Genesis?
So it keeps on going in and out. For me, because I'm traveling right now through New Mexico, it goes in and out for me. But I'm just listening in right now.
I can hear you good. Just was curious if you thought of anything to say on that or mark out.
It's pretty good there. You did great. I like it. Hit everything.
Had a request here to go to 2 Corinthians 4. And they actually picked a specific verse, but they said things around it. But that's always the way I go anyway. I don't really like the way of picking a verse and saying, hey, the Bible says to do this, and here's the verse, and here's how we want to apply it. I think you always need it in context. So we'll go through here. 2 Corinthians. Well, I picked Chronicles here. 2 Corinthians 4. It was up there, of course. The light of the gospel. For this reason, we are not weary of the ministry in which we've engaged, just as we are not weary of the mercy that has come to us. But when we have renounced the hidden things of shame, not walking in the craftiness nor corrupting of the world of Elohim, but we are manifesting ourselves in every conscience of mankind in the sight of Elohim by the revelation of truth. But our hopeful message is hidden. Also another word for gospel. It is hidden to those who are lost and perishing, to those who have been blinded by the God of this world, because they did not believe, because they did not want the light of the glory of the hopeful Messiah, who is in the image of the Elohim, to shine on them. See Corinthians 1, 15, 20. Because we do not preach about ourselves, but rather the Messiah and Yeshua, our master, because we are the servants at Yeshua's sake. Because of Elohim, who has commanded the light to shine out of the darkness, has shined into our hearts, and to give us the knowledge of the glory of Elohim and the face of Yeshua, the Messiah. Treasures and jars of clay. We have this treasure in earthen vessels, so the excellency of the power may be from Elohim and not from us. In every way we are afflicted, not yet overwhelmed, being pressed on all sides, but not conquered, persecuted, but not forsaken, thrown down, but not destroyed, always bearing in our bodies the death of the Master Yahuwah, or Master Yeshua, so that the life of Yeshua may be manifested and revealed in our bodies, because we live always delivered to the death of Yeshua's sake, so that the life of Yeshua may also be manifested and revealed in our mortal bodies. So the death is actively at work in us, but actively in work in you. And we all have the same ruach of faith, spirit of faith, ruach, spirit. And it is written, I believed, and so I speak. We also believed, so we speak. Psalms 1:16-10. Knowing that he is raised up from the Master Yahuwah, will also raise Master Yeshua. We also raise up through Yeshua, and will present us with you to himself, because everything is for your sake, so that the abundant grace should overflow to the glory of Elohim through the plays of thanksgiving of many. So then we do not grow weary, lose heart, and although our outward man is being destroyed, our inward man is being renewed by day. So then, while troubles in the present time are very small and light, they prepare us for the great and limitless glory that is forever and ever. We do not rejoice in the things that are seen, but the things that are not seen, because of the things that are seen temporarily, but the things which are not seen and everlasting. And really, after 2, they recommended this 2 Corinthians 4:18. We rejoice when the things that are we rejoice in the things that are not seen, but the things which are seen, but the things that are not seen, because the things which we've seen are temporary, but the things which are not seen are everlasting. And then it really relates to with the Parsha there with Abraham. And Abraham was asked to go on where he did not have any idea what was going on with it. He just was like, God told me to go. I need to go. Then it didn't even end up being like a really great thing when he went to Egypt, and he got in the troubles we saw there where everybody liked his wife and found his wife really pretty and wanted to get in relations with her. And definitely wasn't an environment that was conductive to him in the ways that he was trying to get through things and survive. And ended up getting him kicked out. But he was going for the things that he couldn't see and continues going on walking with Yahweh. And he ends up having the 2 kids that make up the Middle East there, the Muslims and the Jews. Getting almost so they're unable to be counted, and they're all over the world. Exactly like that there. Let's also here to see what we've got. Colossians 1:5-15. To those who have been blinded by the God of this world, because they did not believe, because they did not want the light of the glory of the hopeful message, which is the gospel of the Messiah, who is in the image of the Elohim. to shine on them. First Colossians 1:15 through 20. Gotta be. Only one Colossians, but I can read Colossians 1:15 through 20. Help if I can read, right? The preeminence of Christ is what that goes over here. Who is the exact image of the invisible Elohim, the exact representation of Elohim, the firstborn of all creation, because all things were created by him, the things that are in heaven and the things that are on earth, and the visible and the invisible, whether they are thrones or dominions or principalities or authorities, and all things were created through him and by him. And he existed before all things, and all things exist and are held together by him. That's an amazing one with that too. I definitely feel all things are held together by him, which I don't think everybody always takes as an insight, because I've seen things move that supernaturally through God's effect on them. Like he's holding it together and he's holding the rules there. And he is the head of the body of the assembly, Jesus Christ. And he is the beginning, the head, the firstborn from the dead, so that he would be the first of all things, because it pleased the Father that all fullness of his divine nature, the divinity and Godhead, could dwell on him. And by his hand he made peace through the blood of his execution stake, the cross, to reconcile all things to himself, whether they are things on the earth or things in heaven. And so then also we've got 2 Corinthians 4:13. We all have the same Ruach, spirit of faith. That is, as it is written, I believe and so I speak. We also believe and we also speak, relating to Psalms 116:10.
That's insane.
116. 116:10. I believed in him, and even when I said I'm greatly affected. So even through things that have gone on and effects and troubles like Abraham got, things that we run into life there, those are a struggle, but we can continue on through with those, and we've got a better everlasting thing in the end here going for. And like Abraham, we will get delivered, and we will be able to spend time in the upcoming new heaven and new earth. Thank you for all who attended here. Dear God, thank you for the blessings you give us and helping these people who attended and watched this. Thank you for everything you do with us here and helping us learn your word and be at peace with you and the things we've got here.
Everything you said it.
You can check out our links below. That'll get you links to the website. I will link through the ministry for Garret and the links for everybody who attended today, and the ways to meet us on Facebook that you can attend these every week. Have a great day. God bless.